Hello, hello, hello. Hi, you guys. Welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad that you were able to tune in. And it is already evening where I am, wherever you are. I hope you're having a great day, a great night, whatever time it is for you. And so on this live chat, I wanted to dive in. Let's get to it right away. What's going on in the world? What's happening? What happened last week? We saw what happened last week. And right after I literally posted the video I did on Iran 2 hours prior to everything happening there. And literally at the end of the video, I said, like, yep, they're going to do something, but it's not going to explode just yet. I mean, for the entire world. So are we on that pathway even? Is that going to happen? It might, but it also might not. And that's what I want to have a look at in this video today. And I hope you guys join me in the chat, and I hope you guys enjoy this. So in any case, hi, Erin. I wanted to start off with sharing a video with you guys, and this is from Bashar. For those of you that don't know who Bashar is an entity that is channeled by Daryl Anka, and he's been doing this channeling for ever, I think, years now. And they are usually pretty on point. So back in September 2024, he did a channeling, which is absolutely unique, very rare for him on the elections. And this is what came out. I want to share that with you guys. Oop, 1 second. Now, okay. So it's only 3 minutes.
I have two spiritual teachers, big prediction, telling us that Trump will win and we are going to migrate to moon, migrate to Mars. I have a spiritual teacher, another side told me, Camilla's going to win and with the open contact and we're going a better earth. So I'm very happy because no matter who wins, I will have a better world. So my question to you is, how does the upcoming election impact especially the humanity and especially Canada?
One moment. We are checking something because generally speaking, we are not really allowed to comment deeply on your politics. But since things are changing somewhat in the near future, we are checking to see what we are allowed to say. I cannot give you specifics about the country of Canada. I am allowed to give you some very general specifics about the election in the United States. However, there must be caveats with this, since we are normally not allowed to comment on such things. There are certain things we can say, but if we say them, because it is your world, are you willing to take responsibility for the responses of your population to what we are about to say? And before you answer, think carefully about what that means. Are you willing to take responsibility for what we are about to say? Be sure the answer is yes.
Yes.
All right. This is what we are allowed to say. The female will lead to open contact. Do I need to say more?
No.
Are you willing to take responsibility for the information?
Yes.
The mail will lead to the termination of the United States and World War III. End of comment.
Okay.
Understand that what we have been allowed to do here today is highly unusual and only indicative of the fact that you are closer to contact than you were before.
My microphone. I got it, you guys. So yeah, so we're gonna see if that happened, and we're gonna see if this is actually going to come about, if that's actually the direction that we're going in. I know the press and the media and everybody's all, oh my gosh, we're headed into World War III. But the last couple of days, I've been like, I'm not quite sure, right? So, but let's dive into it, and things will start coming up for me. So another channel that I want to show you briefly before I dive into stuff is this one. He is amazing. A lot of you have probably already found him. He's probably already been offered to you or shown up in your For You feed or what have you. But he is truly amazing, and he's experiencing right now a blow up that is unbelievable because of the topics that he chooses. He's a high school teacher. I don't even know where, but his explanations of everything that is happening there is unreal. And he's been doing this the last, I don't know, 2 years at least on YouTube that he's been explaining. He does psychohistory, right? So he explains the motivations and so on and so forth. So I stumbled across him because I was researching, because I actually wanted to do a video on this. I didn't want to do a live. And this popped up in my For You. So head on over to Predictive History and check out his videos. But that being said, he was kind of, I guess he showed up in my For You because we're going along the same lines of information. So I'll just continue with what I have, and you can supplement with his, and his explains it probably way better, but I can't say that, right? But it really, really, really good channel. Okay, so part of the awakening, right? Part of the awakening, part of what's happening is the big awakening. We've figured that much out. We know that to truly awaken, we have to see what we're awakening to. We have to see what's happening. We have to see what we're doing. We have to see it to correct it, and so on and so forth. So, but some things that are coming up are patterns, thought forms, egregores, beliefs, which drive the story. And what's starting to reveal itself, and this has been spoken about, hushed for a number of years, is that out of the many groups that are behind the scenes pushing things forward, driving things forward, that we have no idea that exist, there is a group that is they used to speak about it when they spoke about this very hush hush, right? So they used to speak about it and say this is coming from a Luciferic direction or a satanic direction, and that they wanted the suffering in the world to escalate so badly that God would have to reveal his hand, show himself, and respond. And that was their way of mitigating suffering. And there is a group or a mindset kind of, sort of in that direction. And when we look at the Middle East, we're seeing three groups that have that mindset, and three groups that believe in a Messiah, believe in the coming of Armageddon, that believe that after World War III, Armageddon, the end times, that then a golden age will begin, and that base their direction around it. Even if they don't believe it to 100%, there's a strong enough faction in each of these groupings, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, that believe something along those lines and drive it forward. As a matter of fact, we're going to dive into um, what the real belief and what is truly happening and what has shaped political motivations, political steps, and even political organizations, and that it roots in these beliefs, patterns, thought forms, egregores, and so on and so forth. Okay. So we're going to have a look at the three main players, which are Israel, Iran, and the United States. The beliefs of the esoteric kind of beliefs of Islamism, Judaism, and Christianity. I've got my notes here because it's so much that I just, I'm going to stick to my notes. I'm not going to waver. I'm not going to walk down some other pathway like I usually do. And each of these three groups has an end time scenario and a Messiah. And each of these groups believe that they're the chosen ones to lead the earth to peace. Each of them believes in Yeshua, Jesus, Isa, and each of them believe that this Jesus, Yeshua, Isa, is due to return after a global catastrophe, right? So they believe that inducing a global catastrophe is the pathway forward, because after that, just like with the Luciferic groups, they believe that God will have to show his hand, or the divine will have to reveal itself. Now, this is a long-standing plan and belief, and it's not only amongst these three groups, and I'll show you that in a second. So Trump himself, though, has some other agenda. Okay, we'll have a look at that as well. But his is more personal. It's less, yeah. Okay, even though Trump does seem to believe as if he's a chosen one or a Messiah in a sense, or has some kind of divine destiny, which we all have, and he certainly likely does. But the information I was getting around his election last year was that he was missing his calling, that he was being called to something else. But once he got into that seat, once he got into that power, it tore him along with it. Okay. So I'll start off with Iran and move through everything one step at a time. Okay. If you have any questions, I'm always coming back into the chat. Just post it there. So let's see here. All right, Iran. So Iran, what are their, and each of these three are invested in escalating things. Don't be lulled by this peace time that is moving forward. On the one hand, the collective consciousness of the entire humanity, which is another factor that is playing into this here, right? So on the one hand, collective consciousness is saying we're done with wars, we're done with confrontations or dealing with conflict like this. It's old, it's stale, it's that's not the way that we want to go or move forward anymore. On the other hand, deeply entrenched in the subconscious of most people, due to these religious beliefs as well, is a belief in some kind of an end times or an Armageddon or whatever, religion you ascribe to. There's something there prophesying in end times. So if that's what we believe and that's in our subconscious, guess what we're doing and what we're moving towards. Even if we're pushing in the other direction and swimming away as fast as we can, we're still being sucked by that current of our own subconscious manifesting what we believe in. That we can't find freedom, we can't find peace without suffering first. And suffering is almost like the price that we have to pay for it, because of our own unworthiness of peace and happiness. So that's a deep collective thing that is just churning. So that is playing into this absolutely as well. Now, Iran has three major goals in this whole scenario, and which is why it'll keep poking, it'll keep pushing, it'll keep instigating from behind kind of thing. Number one, they also have a messianic, of course, ideology, and I'll just share that with you here. One second. Share. Do. Number one. So this just went up like the same day I was putting this all together. This article went up. So apocalyptic religious belief drives Iran's leadership. It says here, attacks on Israel will hasten return of end time hidden imam. And the Imam is not Jesus. This is the Mahdi. And those of you that have watched Dune, that's exactly where they got it, where Herbert Frank got it from, was from the Mahdi of Islam. And the Mahdi is who is going to lead humanity towards a point where the divine or Isa or Jesus can return. But he's the ultimate leader. And supposedly he's coming in the 12th generation after Muhammad. And guess what time it is? So, in any case, there's a whole religious grouping that is built around that. This article is really interesting, but there are also more legitimate looking articles if this one doesn't look illegitimate enough. But here, this is what was posted on X on Greg Laurie. And the Ayatollah just posted this ominous image. What does it mean? And this is from just a couple days ago as well. But in any case, this is where's the image? I think it was, yeah, it's this one here, this one at the top. So the Mahdi returning, because this is what's supposed to happen in order for us to be led into paradise. So he writes a little bit around that, that and reminds us that the Iranian regime is deeply committed to Shia end times ideology. They believe chaos must precede the Mahdi's arrival, hence their provocations against Israel in the West and their continued pursuit of nuclear weapons, it says here. And so that's point number one. That's point number one. They want the Mahdi to reveal himself or to show himself and to lead humanity into the golden age. And of course, everybody's going to turn Muslim then, right? So that's like the whole thing. But so in any case, that's number one. Number two, this situation, this escalation with the US and Israel will create national unity for Iran, who's right now going through some ups and downs due to these incredible sanctions that they're experiencing and that they're having to live through. Things are not looking good for the supreme leader there. There have been revolts, there have been riots, there have been protests, there have been all kinds of pushbacks, but something like this will allow him to unify the country again under his leadership. And the third thing that he'd be interested in, or Iran would be interested in, is to push the United States of America out of the Middle East as a dominant power. And to really, once they have the US out, if they're the ones to push the US out, that means they take the crown, and they become the dominant power there. And if they become the dominant power there, then they also become the dominant Muslim power, which goes back to the Shia versus Sunni, because Saudi Arabians are Sunni, for example, and so on and so forth. So that's their whole thing. So there's that messianic drive to push things forward, to create a certain kind of chaos, whether this be, and I'm not saying that this is the entire, but the apparently from these articles, and they're everywhere, apparently, this is the way it's been even before the Khomeini was the Khomeini, and he also was a 12ist, so believed in the Mahdi returning in the 12th generation. And actually, that plays into a whole lot more of what's going on there. So that's for the Muslims. Now we move on. And I'm going to do the Israel last, even though I popped this up here. But let's have a look at what came out of Christianity. And I've shown this website so many times. It's unreal. And every time I do a video that goes a little deeper, these somehow pop up. But before I dive into that, let's have a look at USA, United States of America, and what they would want in the um, in the Middle East. So the US is not really like they're playing like they're so invested. And of course they're invested, it's of course, right? But that's not their main goal. They don't want to stay stuck there. They want to treat this like a momentary, like let's just get this done with, and then we can move on to the bigger, more important stuff. And so what their interest is, and this is, I'm speaking traditional American interest. We're not talking Trump interest yet, but the traditional American interests are, of course, to stabilize the region because that's in their best interest. And that keeps the trade routes open. It ensures stability with gas and oil, ensures stability with the dollar. So they will support pretty much anyone that's able to help them in that region. They're supporting Israel actually because they inherited it after World War II. Because remember, the British were the ones that were dominating, ruling over, kind of had authority over Palestine after World War II. They chopped off a little piece, gave it to Israel, and here we are. And so after World War II, the US became the dominant power in the world, and they became the ones that took care of everything. And guess what they inherited? So that's been going on, but the US could just as well support Saudi Arabia, could just as well support Egypt or even Turkey, even though Turkey's kind of Turkey's interesting. Like that one I'm keeping an eye on. And I'm telling everybody I know, keep an eye on Turkey because that one is they're quite interesting. Let's just put it that way. So in any case, the US is also interested in maintaining their empire status. That's what they want. They they want to continue being the empire, right? Because why not? So they're not really invested because the new game on the block is AI. It's no longer about building the biggest, baddest nuclear arsenal that you can have. I mean, after you have five, who's counting, right? Like, how many do you need to get your point home? And they already also have totally different technology and totally different weaponry so that nuclear, it looks messy in comparison too. But the new game on the block is AI, and the AI race is on, the AI arms race, the AI everything race. And that's where they're chomping at the bit to get on the track and run that race. And so anything that distracts them is a nuisance. It's like, let's just get this done with and do it quickly, do it quick and dirty if need be, and then we can get back to business. So they're not really invested. They're invested to the point of, making sure that everything stays stable so it doesn't blow up, but that they're now going to make it their, main focus. Not really, not longer than they have to. So they're invested in energy security. That's a huge thing, huge. And of course, no WMDs, right? So maintaining the balance down there. They're invested in counterterrorism, no extremist groups, and invested in supporting their allies, such as Saudi Arabia, Israel. For example, Saudi Arabia's military is not that built up. like they rely on the US to back them up for anything. And so this is why, if you're wondering, why haven't the other countries really stepped up there? They don't have the military, right? They don't have the military. The big heavy one on the block down there is Israel. So, but there's around the world though. I was speaking to an acquaintance of mine, and he happens to sell machine parts. And these machine parts he works for a company that creates machine parts that are used in all kinds of vehicles all around the world. So he was talking to a client of his. I can't remember if it was Romania or Balkans, but he was there. And apparently, the government there had asked the companies that were in the automotive or any kind of vehicular industry if they would be willing to switch their production to weapons. And so that's going on. That has begun. And this is one of the reasons likely that Trump was talking about bringing back the automotive industry back when he was running, and everybody really thought of cars. But it was also AI, and also the servers and everything back home, in order to prep, because they're going into a prep stage, because yes, things are about to go off. But are they really going to go off? That's what we're going to look at the end of this. But everybody and everything around is starting to prepare. So what Trump seems to want, I don't know. I don't know. A couple of years ago, I felt he had an epiphany. There was some kind of a moment where he realized, wow, I'm this close to God. And I actually have a duty here. I have a mission here. I have something to accomplish here. I can do a lot of good here. And he let that, sweep him up. But then maybe the experiences he had in the interim, maybe because he really feels that his election was stolen back in 2022, that it wasn't that, now he doesn't care anymore. Now he's going to go hard because that's what this earth or planet or people want. I don't know, but he's supported authoritarian regimes. He's noted for being more transactional than he is being a value-based foreign policy person. And that means he will take a jet. you know, that means he will make billion-dollar agreements with some country that's not has different views on human rights, right? That has different standards of human rights to what we might be used to, or what we would think is appropriate. I'm trying to be very correct here in this video, right? But he's been doing a lot of, interesting things that make people wonder about his trustworthiness, wonder if he's also doing backroom deals, wonder if he would be that kind. And some people will say, of course he is, don't be naive, and others will say no, so. But he withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal, and that screwed over a lot of a lot of agreements. Okay, how did that screw them over? Well, he withdrew from the Iran nuclear deal and called it a bad deal, and imposed horrific sanctions on the Iranian people. He also imposed secondary sanctions, and what that means is that he also sanctioned companies, also European companies that were doing business with Iran. And that soured relations for a little bit between as well Europe and the US. But it also kind of led to the destabilization of the region and us seeing what we're seeing now, because once that deal broke down, it was the moderate Iranians that were going for that deal, that said, yes, this is going to work out, everybody's going to keep their word, and so on and so forth. And once that deal broke down, nothing was trustworthy anymore. And the moderate Iranians, nobody wanted to hear from them, and everybody went hardline. And with that hardlining, things started going a little, they started breaking agreements because they figured, well, if the US can break an agreement, why can't we? So everything started falling apart. That, some people will say, accelerated the nuclear program that the US has been fighting as well. So it's I don't know, but it seems that he has a general disregard for working together with other nations, other mentalities, other groups. It's pretty much my way or the highway, and on this planet, on this earth, it's that's a difficult stance to take long term. But it aligns with his disruptor brand, right? So it gets him the votes back home. It makes him popular back home. But yeah. Another possibility is that he is going to utilize this and the ramifications of this to strengthen his position for the next elections, because he is going to go for a third term. Definitely going to go for a third term. And he might even, because he said numerous times during his election campaign that you won't have to vote anymore, right? So what does that mean? But one of the things he could do is drag the US into some kind of a conflict and make himself a wartime president. Who knows? So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But diving into the Christian side of things and the Christian messianic, we of course have the classic Midwestern Christianity, and that believe that Jerusalem is their root and their home, and they actually want to support Judaism in creating, a Judaic Christian kind of Jerusalem, and believe that that would work out for both of them some way, somehow. But there's another direction that Christianity went into when they went into spirituality. And this actually led to the creation of the UN and some other organizations that were meant to bring balance, peace, but also open the door to a new world religion, because they understood early on that they would have to make everybody believe the same thing, make everybody see things the same way, that religions kind of divide us, right? That they take us, it's beautiful, it's great, we should all believe whatever we want to believe, but there are certain groups of people that are looking at the organization of human beings of this planet, and they're thinking this is not working. So the higher level thing to do would be to create a one world religion, to unify our thoughts, our actions, our perspectives, and through that, call in the divine Christ energy, right? Which, because if the entire world is facing the same direction at once, praying in the same direction at once, maintaining the same festivals and rituals at once, generating a huge, massive energy to heaven at once, then heaven has to respond. And where do we see that? Look no further than the UN and this website that I keep showing people over and over again. And that is here with the Lucis Trust. Now, the Lucis Trust website has changed since I've been showing it to people. They've refined it, they've cleaned it up, over time, making it very, 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 very soft and palatable. But in the beginning, when I first started showing it, there were still some interesting texts up there, right? So uh, the Lucis Trust, for those of you guys that don't know, it's a not-for-profit organization and publishing house. It publishes everything for the UN. That's what it was created for, almost. And it also offers meditations. So you can go there and meditate and just stay on the surface of things. But the Lucis Trust was founded by Alice Bailey, and Alice Bailey was a theosophist. And so she learned with Helena Blavatsky. And she also went to India. She wrote several books, and she had a real grasp on the energetic world and the energetic realms. However, she was also in contact with some higher beings, and or what she termed were higher beings. We don't know, do we? So she was in contact with these higher beings, and they gave her information, which she wrote down in these books. And based on the information in this book, she started creating she created this organization, which was to lead to one world religion. And again, that one world religion was to be in order to call in the Christ energies to so that it would have to respond and would be obligated to respond. They also spoke of now they have this information up on the new group of world servers, but they used to have a group of world servers, and this group of world servers, and I can't find it on the website anymore, but it was there and it's still in the books, the older books that they have on the website. So eventually I'll go through it. But the group of world servers that they were speaking about previously were specific people in high-ranking positions of government, of religion, that were to channel these energies into the world, right? They were to be these beacons of light that they would then inform the people around them, inform the people that they would be connected to. One of them, I personally believe, is King Charles. He fit the description of what was written for a world server to a T. The family, the education, the position. He's also the head of the Anglican Church, because all of them were described as being some kind of a religious figure as well, and some kind of a leadership figure. They were some kind of a high-ranking position. So this group, maybe through the UN, or maybe however they did it, they targeted high-ranking individuals to bring them into this idea of creating this one world religion. Eleanor Roosevelt was one of them. She read out the Great Invocation on the radio, and so that's on the website as well. So everything they have written there doesn't sound too bad. It's when you dig into the fine print that things get kind of interesting, right? So it started off as being the Lucifer Publishing Company. Okay, that's what it was originally called, because part of the beliefs of Alice Bailey Theosophists is that Lucifer fell from the sun and is actually here to give us knowledge. Yeah. So they sought to elicit a deeper understanding of the sacrifice made by Lucifer. Alice and Foster Bailey were serious students and teachers of theosophy, a spiritual tradition with views Lucifer as one of the solar angels, those advanced beings who theosophy says descended, thus the fall from Venus to our planet, Venus, eons ago to bring the principle of mind to what was then animal man. In this theosophical perspective, the descent of these solar angels was not a fall into sin or disgrace, but rather an act of great sacrifice, as is suggested in the name Lucifer, which means light bearer. May be true, I'm not saying it's not, but this is what's happening. This is what is happening. That's what I'm trying to say. This is what these organizations, these groups, these people base their beliefs, their perspectives on, their decisions in how they go about life, what they determine, in which direction we're going to progress, or what the next step is, or what we should be focusing on, whether it's in their subconscious or in their conscious at the time. This is what is playing into all of this. And so this is the other, Christian evolution kind of thing, right? So coming from the West, let's call it, the intention here. So I stumbled across it because of the WWIII festival, and the WWIII festival was part of the ritual that happened right around the coronation of King Charles, and I did a whole video on that, but it's steep. So in any case, in this, she speaks about the world religion, and let me see if I can search for it. World religion. Here, this is the time has now come when the West should understand the true significance of this event. As men understand and avail themselves of the opportunity offered at the festival, they place themselves in line with a particular spiritual force. They become vitalized by it and spiritually stimulated and are consequently rendered available for service. Let me see. So what they believed was that the Buddha is the ultimate high force. The Buddha was the ultimate, the highest that we could possibly connect to. And that the Buddha is actually behind Christ. And the Buddha's rays would flow through Christ, activate Christ, and then Christ connects with the world through his world servers, which then connect with the people around them. So that's what they believe. If we all get together on these every full moon and do a ceremony on the full moon, calling upon these energies, the entire world, the entire globe, then something will shift. And yeah, something would shift for sure. But let me see here. World religion. There we go. Here, may not the new and coming world religion be built up around this idea, and may it not be that the work of the Church Universal in the new age will be centered around the periods of the full moon each month and develop into a science of approach or a technique of spiritual contact. This will color our new church rituals and indicate the emerging truth about the path of return to God. So you can dig into this. They talk about it in other little books too, and in other book articles on this website. But that's what they're looking for. That's what they're going for, is this world religion to call in Christ energies. Okay. So they're at their wits' end with humanity. Yeah. So that's now we've spoken about the Christian, we've spoken about the spiritual, leading into the spiritual, we've spoken about the Islam. We haven't spoken about Judaism, and Judaism is really, this one's interesting. This one's really, really interesting. So let's dive in. Let's dive in. So Judaism is, and I'm not saying that this is everybody that's in the government there or the government per se, but again, these are beliefs that are floating. These are beliefs that are out there. These are beliefs that people have been acting on and actually building around, building things around. And that is their end time prophecy. First, the third temple, the creation of the third temple, and the building of the third temple, and New Jerusalem. Some of you might remember, I don't know if you do or not, but you might, back when Trump was elected back in again in 2024, I was saying that this feels like New Jerusalem. It doesn't feel like Camelot. It feels like New Jerusalem. And Camelot to me was like Barack Obama. You know, Camelot to me was fresh. And even Justin Trudeau, like the first year or two, even like the beginning, it felt really fresh. It felt open. It felt new. It felt exciting. It felt like this is where I want to be. This is moving forward. But this, when he got in, it felt heavy and it felt old and it felt, I just heard New Jerusalem. And that's what I said in that video. And that's exactly what they want to create. So the interests here, or the beliefs here, there are 12 key prophecies about Israel, and some of them have already come to pass according to those that believe this, right? So it just shows that the rest of these prophecies are going to come to pass. Now, mind you, it's gotten to the point where everything has been created for this third temple. All they have to do is build it. So there are several stipulations for the third temple that need to happen, several things that need to be in place. They've done that. their gold menorah. They have the red heifers. They have the sons of Aaron. I don't know how they traced them back all the way to Aaron. Aaron, might remember, was the brother of Moses. And so they need priests that are from this lineage in order for this temple to work. And then Yeshua will return, right? Then the Messiah will come. That's their belief of calling in the Messiah. So here they have the 12. I'll just go through this really quickly. You can look it up yourself. But the 12 prophecies, one second. Up here, they also write that this group, I got this from torahclass.com. I don't know what group that is, but this particular, whoever wrote this, they're not a fan of the idea that Palestine, gets its own state. And they're quite worried about Palestine getting its own state because they believe that the forces of the West are going to ascribe or assign Jerusalem to Palestine, and then they won't be able to access Jerusalem. That's their big thing. They feel that if they have Jerusalem, it will always stay open for all three. And it's their, traditional land according to their beliefs. But if it falls into the hand of a Muslim nation, then the others won't have access. That's their belief. That's their fear. Let's put it that way. So the 12 key prophecies that have come to pass, number one is, and there are Bible verses, of course, that go in with that. So God's covenant promise to the Jewish people is forever and unbreakable, it says here. And they even quote from the New Testament, and this is a statement from Paul. And Paul is saying that it is our job as Christians, Messiah's disciples, to show Israel mercy so that by doing so, God will show us mercy. So if for no other reason, it is in our own enlightened self-interest to befriend Israel. So that's what they take as, this is God serious here. Key number two, God said he would reestablish the nation of Israel in a day. Well, that did happen. It was May 14th, 1948. Israel was welcomed into the family of nations as an independent Jewish state on the same land that they had been exiled from 1,900 years earlier. The cold, hard facts of history have proven that these prophecies of God are fulfilled literally, not symbolically, and certainly not allegorically. Israel has not been replaced, it has been reborn. Now, I have to add here that in the Kabbalah, that Israel is interpreted to mean anyone who is wrestling with God, because that's literally what the name Israel means. Israel is actually Jacob. And the story of Jacob's ladder. Look it up, Jacob's ladder, Jacob falling asleep, having a dream, wrestling with an angel, wrestling with God. And after that, his name, God said, you shall now be called Israel. And so that's where that comes from. He who wrestles with God. So in the Kabbalah, it's any of us. All of us are Israelites that are wrestling with God, wrestling with understanding God, wrestling with finding our way back to God, wrestling with reconnecting to God, wrestling with whatever, right? So all of us are Israelites according to that Kabbalistic belief. But this group believes no, like it's only specific to a certain group of people or certain tribe of people, and that it has nothing to do with, it's not a spiritual tribe, it's a physical tribe, right? So key number three, the Jews would return to Israel from all over the earth. Well, that kind of happened. Then moving on. Key number four, the returning people will come from the north and the south, and the return from the north will be even greater than the 3 million Israelites that Moses led out of Egypt. Sure, there were a lot of people returning to Israel or going to Israel from northern countries to them. Yeah, absolutely. So we know that's a fact. Key number five, God will restore the land. It will be fruitful and more prosperous than any time in history ever. So again, they're quoting all the Bible verses that go along with this in red, as you can tell. And in the 1860s, Mark Twain visited the former land of Israel and said this about it: "There was nowhere a foot of shade. It is blistering, naked, treeless. There is no dew, nor flowers, nor trees, nor birds. It is hopeless, dreary, heartbroken land." But things have completely changed. Today, the land has been reforested, the swamps drained, the rocky fields made fertile, the ancient terraces have been rebuilt, and vineyards and orchards now produce some of the finest fruit and wine in the world. Israel is now a net exporter of food and also exports some 2 billion flowers each year. Aren't they more prosperous than any time in history? No doubt. Key number 6, God's people will have an insatiable love for their land of Israel, and this signals a time of favor. They're working on it. God will change the heart of his people Israel from stone to flesh. They're working on it. God will use Gentiles. Now, this is a key point. Okay, God will use Gentiles. Gentiles are, for those of you that don't know, everybody who's not Israel or non-Judaic, to bless his nation and people, Israel. And you're right, Gentiles have always been a useful tool in the Lord's hand to deal with Israel. And this is important for what we're going to, walk through after I finish with the 12 keys here. In ancient times, God used Gentile nations as the instruments to punish God's people for their rebellion. But the time arrived when Gentiles would be a blessing to God's people, Israel, and Paul speaks about this time in Romans 1, verse 1. And then going down, God, in his immutable mystery, created a plan that would include Gentiles. But the reality is that Gentiles would serve the purpose of leading Israel to salvation. Yes, Gentiles would also greatly benefit because in the process, they would learn of the Jewish Savior, Yeshua, and be saved. But the point of the divine plan was to save Israel, and Paul says the Gentiles should not even think otherwise and thus become proud. And what else is replacement theology but pride and hubris gone mad? So our entire existence, according to this, is simply to save Israel. That's why all of us were created, kind of thing. And any help that is going to that country is to be expected because that's what God wants. So key number 9, God will show the nations that he keeps his promises. Key number 10, Jerusalem will no longer be in the hands of the Gentile nations. Key number 11, God will make Jerusalem the focus of the world. And they're saying, yep, everybody pays attention to Jerusalem, no matter where you are. Everybody's heard of it now. And the Bible makes it clear that Jerusalem is the center of the world, not just spiritually, but tangibly, especially as we get nearer the Messiah's return, because of course the Messiah is about to return. Jerusalem, a medium-sized city with a population of fewer than 500,000 souls, causes the entire world to tremble. And key number 12, God's people will return, never to be exiled again. So they see a complete victory happening, and they see themselves as being the main power in that area and that region. Here's an article in Wiki that explains the third temple, the first two temples. The first temple, King Nebuchadnezzar destroyed way back when, 587 BC. And the second temple was destroyed in 70 after Christ. And there's a whole story around that as well. And what happened to all the loot and treasure and the ark and the sacred menorah and how it was carried off to Rome and then somehow landed possibly in southern France. But that's a whole other, thing. But in any case, it's time for the third temple because the third temple has to be built to bring Yeshua back. So everybody's going for this belief, this concept, this idea, this story, this narrative, this maybe allegorical, maybe not, right? But they're basing decisions and creating institutions around it, like the publishing house of the UN. So it's why is this so important? Yeah. Great article. You guys should read it. But it explains a lot in there as well. So, what does Israel actually want? And well, number one would be, yeah, their third temple. They want to be the power in the Middle Eastern region, which is why they're not interested in peace between Iran and the US. Okay, so they might end up kind of prodding the US to war. Now, this depends on how strong the global consciousness is, right? So if the pushback is strong enough, then all of this won't come to pass. But if the pushback is too weak or aligns in certain points, then it will come to pass. So they're, of course, wanting to build New Jerusalem, the third temple. They want to be the power in the region. They see themselves as the legitimate power in the region. This was promised to them. But remember that the promised land goes from the Nile to the Euphrates. So I'll leave that up to you. And they need the US and Iran to be defeated, because if the US is defeated and Iran wins, then Israel is toast. If Iran is defeated and the US wins, then Israel is still a second player there. So both have to go. And that would be likely if, and besides, the Gentiles are supposed to be used for Israel's glory. So it's highly likely if that both will go if the US makes the mistake and sends in ground troops. And that would be a huge mistake on the part of the United States, but they might do it because it looks good. The optics are fantastic for re-election and all of that. And people will, Fox News will release something else and people will jump on that and think, yeah, that's our enemy. We have to go, we have to finish this and we have to finish this in a certain way. But I hope, people don't let themselves be triggered anymore like that, like they were last time. I really do, because I don't know. It's time to end this. It really is time to end this. I think we're all done. Like, we're all fed up. And the energy is calling for something, a completely different experience, a completely new experience, a new human experience, a new experience on this planet, on this earth in a new way. And there's so many opportunities and possibilities that we still haven't explored, that we still haven't gone down. And it's really time to explore those. And the old stories are interesting and they're beautiful and they're wonderful and they're amazing to have and to hold and to look at, but they're also amazing to close, to end the book and put it away. And to keep it going indefinitely, it just makes no sense anymore. So let me check. I've been going on for a minute. Let me check the chat. Hope you guys are still with me here. Um, mm, Trump is here in the Netherlands for the NATO summit at The Hague. Yeah. I wonder what'll happen there. Lucifer from Latin Light, bringing in Morning Star, Angel of Lights. Yeah, we're done. We're done. We're done. We're absolutely done. So we have the chance, the opportunity, the moment right now to, as always, it's always that moment. It's always the right moment to start to shift things, to push forward in a different way. So if there's an aspect of you that wants to see the world burn, have a look at that, Have a look at that. If there's an aspect of you that says, okay, we can't reach freedom and happiness before going all the way downhill, hitting absolute rock bottom, have a look at that. right? Because everything we do, there's that saying that even if you think that you don't contribute at all to a bag of rice falling over in China, you do through your intentions, through your wishes, through your hopes, through your dreams, through your aspirations, through your intentions, through your thoughts, through what you align with regularly, not occasionally. Like we all get mad and upset and we're all fed up, but what you align with on a regular, continuous, almost disciplined, unconsciously basis. This is what strengthens the field that causes things like that to happen, to ripple, to come together, to gel, to manifest, to express, need to express itself in some way, shape, or form. So it's not about repression, but it's more about moving through, acknowledging and moving through, recognizing, oh, this is the story, this is the book, and saying, okay, that's the final chapter. I'll put it aside, not to ignore it, but because we're really done. It's time to open up something new. So all we can do is literally sit and wait and see what happens. And sit and wait how this unfolds. But I don't, 2027 is the year that keeps popping up for me, and Pluto goes retrograde in that year, right? So it keeps popping up in some way, shape, or form that it can be, it's like a light that shows itself. And I don't feel maybe a highlight, but I don't feel any of the nations will be ready for war, full scale, open, all out, air, land, sea invasion, full on until then. And until then, they will be attempting to shift things if we don't push back energetically, intentionally, with their thoughts, with their alignments, with everything. So we'll see changes, of course, in identifications. We'll see changes, of course, in travel. We'll see changes, of course, in, on the one hand, things are going to open up, right? Or seem like they're opening up, and we're going to feel like, ooh, we can breathe in this bubble, but it's a bubble that's been created for us to move out of one into the other. I hope that makes sense. But in that bubble, with a lot more freedom around certain things, there are a lot more restrictions that are going to go in with that. So that's one of the things too that is happening in the States, is this whole migration issue. It doesn't just have to do with, ew, those are, like he's, it feels to me like it's being weeded out, sifted out, sabotagers, people that would go against the country because they are prepping for something bigger, longer, deeper, and they're shifting things in a big way. I was reading an article a couple weeks ago about these server farms that are going up in Ohio, and they're for AI, and they're by the Great Lakes in Ohio or something like it. Was it Ohio? I think so. If you guys are in Ohio, and you know what I'm talking about, correct me, please. But there was something about server farms going up, and they're massive, and they're next to these rivers and Great Lakes because they need that for cooling. And but the environmental stuff and people are on edge about it because they don't want to support this, but it's jobs, and I don't know, but there's something around that. So it's, things are changing. Like it's changing in a big and a fast way. And sign up for my Patreon before I sign off. Sign up for my Patreon, because there I have a course on energetic sovereignty in the psychic age. And I'm calling this the psychic age because it is. It's an age where we're already instantly connected, whether through technology or frequency. We are instantly connected. We're instantly talking to one another. Information is instant around the entire planet. Um, Instantly, we're in somebody else's soup. So this is really an age where we have to start like learning. Just, it's not just anymore about becoming psychic, because everybody's psychic. Everybody's going to be open. Um, already they're developing technology that can be led through thoughts. Like you just think it and it's writes or it opens your car door or what have you. So being psychic is not what it's about anymore. It's about being clear. It's about being absolutely in tune. And that's going to be more and more difficult as we move forward and as things become more and more AI driven. It's just what it is. So, yeah, doing a whole series on that. So, if you're not on my Patreon, head on over. The link is in the description box below this video. You guys, thanks for listening. And let me check the chat again. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you have any topics that you want me to dig into, let me know as well. Many are saying 2027. Yeah, it's a highlight. It's a point. I don't know. 2027, 2030 is kind of and then 2032. Those are the years that I'm picking up on, 2027 and 2032. Into a new organization for how people do daily lives, away from capitalism and institutions and more towards social. Uh, Local. Okay. I hope so. I honestly hope so. Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. All right. But are we headed to World War III? I was thinking, wait a minute, I'm finished, but I was like, no, I'm not quite finished. Are we headed towards World War III? We're going in that direction for sure. I think everybody realizes that, knows that, has accepted that. Some say we're already in it. It's just a different type of warfare than we expect. And it's not going to look because they already have different weaponry. It doesn't make sense to engage with the usual that we're used to, except for optics. Um, it will cause, that would cause, if the US went to war now, which is why they can't do it, they can, it will cause a civil war in the United States. It will, 100%. It will. And in the beginning, people would kind of be shocked and look the other way. And then first people start dying and coming home, and the first moms start crying on TV, and the first people start saying they're not going to war, and then civil rights, and one thing leads to another, and everything just goes boom. Because the Americans have been under pressure for a while, and this pressure is on purpose, and it's going to be more, like there's going to be more pressure moving forward. So it's really a time to learn to go within, to go connect within, to walk your pathway and to know what your pathway is, and to really try to live your life the way the best you can. But yeah. So it's an unnecessary situation, but if it goes in that direction, yeah, yeah. It seems like we're manifesting it a little bit as well, like I said, because we all have it somewhere lurking in our subconscious that Armageddon is supposed to happen. I mean, there's almost no religion or spiritual thing that doesn't talk about these end times, so yeah. I thought we have to go through another ripping 5 years. Mm, Yippers. Yippers. But we're not at war yet. Not this year, you guys, not this year. Maybe next year things will heat up. By next year, things should be heating up, but they won't be ready next year either, because they have to create all this entire, like, everything around it. And they need the support back home, and they need to solidify that. So I see it more as a re-election stunt if it happens, more something in those lines. But who knows? Who knows? Who knows? And I'm hoping that, these people are getting tired of being this aggressive, this tired of being this, like you have to get tired at some point, don't you? So I'm hoping for that. If not, that something makes sense to them, that they just get tired of it. So yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And when I say go to war, I have to make clear. I believe we're already at war. Number one, I'm one of those. Yeah. And I believe that they already have different weapons. So it's not something that necessarily needs to be, like I said, the full air, sea, land invasion. Um, I don't think the US has enough people in the military for the war coming up. They don't. They'll have to reintroduce the draft. European countries will have to reintroduce the draft. They've been speaking about that. They've been articulating that. They've been talking about that. So they don't have it yet. They can't quite step into that yet. They need to nationalize people, because people that don't believe, in fighting for their countries are not going to fight for their countries. It's that simple. And they're not going to work, right? So, and push through a war for their country if they don't believe in that structure anymore. So they have to create that consciousness again. Enter Q migrants, fight for your country. Your culture is endangered. Like but here we are, people fall for it. So it's okay. It's okay. Another stage, another. So yeah. So they're prepping. They're prepping. That's why I don't see us going quite yet, but we're close. We're very, very close. And 2027 could be the year that things pop off. Yeah. I hope not earlier. Hmm. Climate change is another thing. Yeah. Yeah. That's real. That's definitely real. But if you guys read any of the books that were written 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we're way past. Like, it doesn't mean stop and do nothing and just let everything happen, but we're way past the point of it's not even five before, five after, it's 10 after. But then there are a lot of there are several, geologists and meteorologists and others that say that we're due for a major environmental catastrophe anyways. Like, we've been living in this golden period. We've evolved as humanity in this golden moment. But we're due for a big turning again. Actually, it's overdue. It's all overdue. Being hit by asteroids, it's all overdue. So there's definitely an intention somewhere in this construct, and for us to survive and to live. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe it all happened and we were shifted from one earth to another. Maybe it already happened and the old earth went down. I don't know. Who knows? Let's play with this. See what we come up with. Yeah. Do you have an energetic read on the leaders of Israel and or Iran? Oh, that's a tough one. That really, really, really is. That's a tough one. They're all so, I don't, Mm, let me pull up a picture of them 1 second. There's some health issues around Kameni. That's a for sure. There are health issues going on with him. And 1 second here. Or the Ayatollah. Yeah, there's some major, I don't know. I'm picking up with him some health issues, and they have to that might be another cause for the rush to get certain things in place before something else happens. Um, um, 1 second. Oof. Okay, I'm looking at the picture on him on Wiki. So if you guys want to follow, that's the picture I'm looking at. And actually, I'll just screen share. Second here. So yeah, there's some definite health issues, health concerns that are going on with him. That's what I'm picking up. What I'm also picking up is a kind of a like there's a sadness and a grief, a sense of loss, and there's something around a boy, a young boy, a son, something like that, a disappointment, um, a concern, a worry, thoughts, something around that. And I'm also picking up though that this is a determined, absolutely determined person and occulted. Okay, this is and not just because of his looks with a beard and all of that, but there's something very wizardy about his energy. Definitely someone who goes a little bit deeper into the spiritual things as well. More What's interesting is also that I feel like he kind of plays a role, like some of the stuff that he stands for or represents, he doesn't himself really believe in. I feel as if he's actually more open-minded than he acts or portrays or he fills in his role as supreme leader. Um, it's almost as if he's aligning with certain powers, forces because that's what he has to do. Like that's his role. Mm, yeah, I'm not too sure about his health though, but he sees clearly. Like there's something very clear about him, something very, very clear about him. Like even now, all of a sudden I feel like his consciousness is looking back. So there's something about him where he's very, very, very aware. Very aware. Let's see here. Netanyahu is this guy is What the hell? Share. Mm. I don't feel the awareness with him as much. There's a lot more ego, a lot more pride, a lot less consciousness, a lot lower consciousness, a lot more calculation. This is just pure ambition. This is all I'm reading off of him is pure ambition. Like there's such an ambition and a complete convinced of self. Yeah, no, I'm not. All of a sudden, my stomach just went. Bleh. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm not getting a good vibe. No, my head started spinning. I'm feeling lightheaded. A lot of stress, a lot of stress, like extreme stress. I wouldn't be surprised if it would come out sooner or later that there are some addiction issues there. But yeah, I'll leave that one. Okay. Hmm. The Middle East is not going to end for a while. So, do you see the end of suffering in Palestine? No. No, I don't. No, I don't. Yeah, you guys, the point of where I feel like is really pivotal or there's some kind of a turning is 2032. 2017, there's something that it's like a bright flashing light, something that explodes. But 2032 is a turning, and that's when things start moving in a different direction again, I feel. But before that, it's just going to be more and more and more interesting, unless, as I keep stressing, as I keep saying, we manage as a collective to consciously push back, to consciously, with our own consciousness, illuminate different things, align ourselves to different things, strengthen different streams of consciousness. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of like what we did. We actually did that these last couple weeks and days, like our utter disgust at what happened in Iran. And for whatever reason, for whatever reason, our utter disgust for what's going on down there and in other parts of the world, our utter disgust at the economy, at the people that purport to be, like Jeff Bezos and Venedig spent how much? He spent 20 million on his 3-day wedding. Like what? Like what? It's gotten so ridiculous that yeah, you just can't even pay attention anymore. Like you literally can't. But we pushed back in our own way. We did that. We did that with our energies. We pushed back, and we need to push harder though. We really do. But I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. And I wish you guys a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful rest of your day or your night or your evening, wherever you are. And of course, if you would like a personal reading on your personal issues, your personal stuff, then book a session with me. The link is in the description box below. Or you can also join me over on my Patreon, where I just started putting up the series on energetic sovereignty in the psychic age. And there are some other videos there you can check out too. Okay. All right, you guys, take care. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.